Hello and welcome.
Hello. Welcome
I'm Olivia.
to. Oh,
Oh.
I'm Amy. Oh,
And this is
Girls
Girls
Gone
Gone
Spooky.
Spooky.
We'll get that
Um,
down one day, maybe.
we will, maybe, probably not though.
Yeah.
To steal a line from a previous episode, we are back on our lurid spooky bullshit.
I love it.
With a holiday scary story episode.
Yay.
So we recorded just last week, but you guys haven't heard from us for like a month. So
Yeah.
happy New Year.
Oh, yeah, that's
So funny
right.
to say that.
Whoa. This year went by so fast.
Crazy fast.
Yeah.
Especially this last part. I feel like it was like I was like
Mhm.
summer, and summer was like
Yep.
kind of like summer felt long, which I was happy about.
Yeah.
And then it's snowing here today, by the
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
And then it was like, oh, it's September. Oh my God, it's October, November. Oh my God, it's almost
Mhm.
December. What's
I know.
happening?
And now it'll
So,
be Christmas in a month, pretty much.
well, for us,
Ugh.
Christmas is in a month. For you
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
it's January 5th.
That's right. I hope you had a great Christmas or a
Yeah.
holiday or whatever you celebrate
Yeah. We'll probably talk about our Christmases in like a
when it
month.
happens. Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think it probably will be like the next like 2 episodes probably because we're going to take a big break. But
Yeah.
we are doing some pre-recording, but it makes it even more holiday-y because we're in the
Yeah.
holiday anticipation mode. Y'all are
Mhm.
in like post-holiday, need something fun to cheer you
Yes.
up mode.
Yeah,
So, the
sadly.
most depressing part.
Yeah, not great.
We'll be there soon enough. I was just about to tell Amy, and then I was like, let me hit
Oh,
record
yeah.
because I feel like people might be interested in this. So
Mhm.
I was reading this thing that was like, here are all the styles that are like coming back in, like things that you were like, oh, that's not going to come back in. And it's those like really boho, like on a black cord necklaces. Remember
Okay,
those?
I'm trying. Is it like a bolo tie almost? But
Some of them, yeah, but it's like just like a thick black cord. I'm gonna send you what I'm gonna buy because I'm gonna buy
okay,
one,
okay.
but not necessarily because of the trend, but it's like on a cord and you put like a raw crystal on it or something. And it was like
Cute.
would wear them in like the early 2000s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man, like it's all about energy, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay. Uh-huh.
But then I came across, of course, on Instagram, one of those like very witchy girls, and it was like, wear an emerald ring for this, and like
Oh.
a raw stone on a crossed cord. So it like has to be tied in like either a knot or one of those like those knots that like tightens by pulling them down
Mhm.
each other's length.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I was like looking up like what are the best crystals for Libras? And I'm actually gonna get a few because I found this like Etsy woman who makes them and they say
Yeah.
like men's choker. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna wear it.
Yeah. Who cares?
But I found like amethyst is good for like like calming, like big calming energy,
Mhm.
especially for Libras. And then like white or clear quartz for like clarity and truth. And then I also want to find some a one with black tourmaline. She doesn't sell them, but uh, what was that one? Let me look it up again. It's like protective stones.
Okay.
But then I've also heard
Nice.
that black tourmaline can like cause issues for people. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm gonna like look that one up a little
Yeah.
bit more.
What kind of issues?
Like, let me see if I can find it. Tourmaline bad energy.
Hmm. I mean,
Um,
it must be dark colored, right?
yeah,
Like,
it's black. I think actually maybe it's not black tourmaline. It's like other kinds of tourmaline.
hmm.
Let me see crystals
Interesting.
with bad energy. Crystals with bad energy. No, black tourmaline comes up as like one of the best, or black obsidian.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'm gonna do some more research, but you're gonna see me
Yeah.
sporting my black cord choker of the day.
Yeah. That's gonna be fun. It's a
It's
new fashion statement
I
every
feel like
day.
it like suits our witchy vibe.
Hmm.
So maybe
Yeah,
I'll send you one.
that would be great.
Merry Christmas.
I have one not like that because it's not interchangeable, but it is on a
Mhm.
black cord and it has like a
Mhm.
giant green like rock on it, and I don't even
Yeah.
know what it is, but I'll put it on for next week.
Okay, yeah. And that's it. I'm just spoiler alert. I'm gonna send you one for Christmas. And I'll look up
Okay.
like what's the best for Virgos.
Okay. Thank you.
My Virgo queen.
Looking forward to, whoa. We did that at the same time.
I love it. We look like cult leaders.
Yeah.
Welcome to the cult.
That's, yeah.
I'm really excited to hear
Yeah.
that
Oh,
that's part of
yeah.
your story.
Well, okay, here's some news.
Oh,
This story is 8 parts. So
that's good.
today,
I
I think
mean,
I'm gonna
you gonna read
combine
two?
2. I'm gonna combine
Yes.
them because
I'm
they're
gonna combine
really
two also.
long. Okay, that
Okay.
sounds good.
Plus.
Because, yeah, I mean, 8 parts is a lot and they're really long. And I felt like part 3 wasn't giving us much. So we're going to combine it.
That's fair. Oh,
So,
she's making it snappy,
yeah,
guys.
I don't have time,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
we don't have time for this.
I'm
We need
a
to get to the meat, meat and the potato.
businesswoman. We're business
Business
women over
woman,
here.
business nanas,
Yes, exactly.
business nanas.
Yes, we love it.
What was that guy's name? I don't remember his name now.
I don't either, but
Oh,
I
it like
follow
just
him on
came into my
Instagram.
head. It like just came into my head and then it went right back out.
Yeah, what is
Um,
his name?
Anyway, we were on a beach in Mexico. I think we talked about this in a like previous episode. We were on a beach
Probably.
in Mexico, and this guy, I apparently just like my energy gave off like corporate bitch. So the whole time he's calling us
Yeah.
nenas, like
Hmm.
girls,
Hmm.
and then he's like, "Oh, business nena."
Yeah.
So anyway, when Amy and I get our matching tattoos, we're getting
Oh,
nena.
yeah. Nana. That's right. I forgot about
I think
that.
that has to happen our next trip together because it's been
Okay.
fucking forever.
Yeah. It's been way too long. Yeah. And I think his name was Giovanni. Does that sound right?
Yes, it was Giovanni.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
The
If you need
angel.
a surf instructor in Sayulita, look him up.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah,
didn't
he's
take
awesome.
lessons, but I would have
No,
probably
we
if we had
watched him
time.
give lessons. Yeah,
Yes.
and he looked great.
Exactly.
So,
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
okay, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Do I go first or is it you?
Um, let's take
I
a look.
think it might be
It's
you.
you.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I went first for the dork web.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I forgot
Where
about the
I
dork web.
basically also made that a scary story episode, but it's been a month. So
Yeah,
here you
yeah,
go. Welcome back.
exactly. Okay, then let me get ready. I'm
I'm
ill
so excited.
prepared.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to.
No, that's okay.
That's
All right, so let's
it.
do a refresher. Part
Yes.
2, we found out that Jamie, who is the narrator's boyfriend or partner, I can't remember,
Yeah.
um, he went in the elevator. He's probably not coming back. We learned that from our like Cockney mailman or whatever his
Forget about him, Rob.
exactly.
Keep it on me.
Yeah.
Keep it on me.
Oh yeah, we forgot to share that on Instagram.
I did. No, I
Oh,
did.
you
I
did.
did. I put
Okay.
it on our stories. I put it on
Okay.
our stories. If you guys didn't go see that, it is like if you're Harry Potter heads, it is like the funniest
Hmm.
Harry Potter in like Scouse accent, I think.
Yeah.
And
It's,
it's
uh-huh.
saved to our episode picks highlights if
Hmm.
you missed it when it was posted to our stories a month ago. So holy shit. I
It's
rewatched it like 10 times when I was posting
hmm.
it. I was like,
Yeah. And it stays
on
funny.
me.
It's just so
Oh my
good.
God. It's so good. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
proceed.
No, that's
Jimmy's
okay.
dead.
Yeah, so Jamie's dead. He's probably not coming back. But we also learned that the only survivor of the elevator was Prudence, who's the former tenant of this apartment. her
Oh, right.
granddaughter, or no, her Prudence, her granddaughter, they think died from this. Prudence
Oh, right,
tried to
right.
save her, and she's the one who survived. So, because of that, our narrator is like, I'm going to go find her. I need more answers than what she just put in this note. Oh, and also, her friend, Georgia, had allowed somebody to come into the apartment, which is like a key rule. And she ended up suffering the consequences when whatever that was, this person, its name was Natalia. Um, she burned Georgia alive, which I'm laughing because that's so uncomfortable.
I know.
But in part three, we find out that Georgia is okay. So,
Yes. Okay.
spoiler alert. Okay,
Bless.
so that's pretty much part two. Yeah, the first part of part three, we find out that the friend is okay. She was found and she's stable in the hospital. And then there's a lot of detail about her search to find Prudence because she doesn't actually have any contact info for her. Um, so she finds like a bunch of random things. She finds an obituary for Bernie Hemmings, who had fallen from the apartment in unexplained circumstances after being diagnosed with dementia months before his death. So there's a detail,
R.I.P. Bernie.
and yeah, from that, she finds the contact info. So she decides to go out and find Prudence at this listed address. And on the way out, she meets some more neighbors. Let's see. This neighbor's name is Terry, and she's in her late 30s to early 40s. She has two small children with her, one boy and one girl. I guessed that they were twins. They were both incredibly blonde with deep brown puppy dog looking eyes and couldn't have been any older than 6 to 7. They were as close to identical as it gets in twins of different genders. So, her kids are running wild, but Terry seems like a nice person. They have a short conversation, and then she goes to find Prudence. And let me see. So then she has a very long conversation with Prudence with more background about things. Let me find the important part. So she says Jamie's not coming back. She confirms that. She says there's no way to get him back, although she says maybe there is a way, but you don't want to do it, is what she says. And we'll find out why. So she also talks about Derek, who was a former gardener at the building, and he was the one who first told her about that creepy window washer and saved her from opening the window for him. And she also confesses that Bernie, her husband, who had dementia, she actually pushed him out of the window because she came into the apartment to find him getting attacked by one of these creatures, like
Oh
the one
my
who burned her
God.
friend. Um,
Yeah.
and she just didn't want to face the questions of that. So she decided to push him because he was already dying from that attack.
I see.
And the reason that happened is because he had left out food for their cat. And that's one of the things that draws those people in. Um, and then she also shares a theory that the cats that are wandering around the building are neighbors that have been burned by Natalia or whatever creature that is. Um, so they're like turned into something different.
Oh, like an animagus in Harry Potter.
Yes, it all comes back to Harry Potter.
Always, all roads lead to Harry Potter. Keep it old
Exactly.
me, bruv.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, she also talks about how she met Terry and those kids and how they are far from nice. So keep that in mind. Um, And then the last thing, I'm just going to read the last couple of paragraphs.
Okay.
So let's find a
So
good
she
spot.
doesn't tell her how she could get Jamie back. She just says, "There's a
Ye-
way, but you don't want to do it."
yes, pretty much.
Okay.
But let's see
Okay.
if I. Okay, so the narrator asks, haven't you ever been curious about getting her, as in her granddaughter, Lila, back? I asked, my mind turning back to the methods hinted at by both Prue and the postman. I miss Jamie so much. I'd do anything to get him back. Her face filled with a look of horror and shame. Of course I have, she answered, which is exactly why I'm telling you not to. But I couldn't let it go. Surely anything must be better than gone forever, I pestered. I wish I hadn't. Prudence, frustrated, stood up and gestured for me to follow. She led me outside to the back garden of the bungalow. At the back was a large shed, the kind people used for a man cave or a summer house. It was pretty. The sun shone down on it, lighting up the few cobwebs in the corners and making them twinkle. Mrs. Hemmings was careful to look into both neighboring gardens to ensure that there was no one around before she unlocked the door to the shed. We stepped inside, and the first thing to hit me was the smell. It was putrid, like rotting meat. I looked at the floor and covered my nose with my hands. Staring back at me was a pool of blood. I followed the blood with my eyes as Prudence locked us in the shed. Then, after I made it past the animal bones, I finally saw it. Just like the postman Ian had described. One of the creatures from the elevator was watching me from a heavy duty metal dog cage in the corner of the shed. It looked reinforced, but still the metal had chew marks. Their jaws had to be strong to cause that. That didn't surprise me looking at it. Its rodent like nose and beady, yet somehow human like eyes were nothing compared to the
Oh
two
no.
very visible rows of jagged, sharp teeth that lined each gum. Despite its small stature, it was terrifying. Prudence opened a drawer in a dusty cupboard across the room and pulled out a can of dog food. She poured the contents into the bowl and passed the bowl through the feeding hatch. The cage had a safety feature, meaning the animal couldn't access the food until the hatch was locked from the outside. I was grateful for this. Prue turned to me and spoke. She brushed one of the two strands of hair framing her face behind her ear. Gesturing to the hideous creature, she said, Cat, I would like to introduce you to my granddaughter, Lila.
Oh,
So, that's what happens when you bring someone back. They turn into one of the creatures.
oh shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the end of part 3. And now
Oh
I
god.
will read part 4.
Yes. Okay, okay. Well
Okay.
done summarizing, because there's like a lot
Thank
in
you.
there, but I'm sure it was like very drawn
Yeah.
out.
It was very flowery, and it was like,
Yeah.
let's just
Not
save
enough
ourselves
action.
30
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So here we go. I was in complete shock looking at her. Prudence had a facial expression filled with guilt, and now I knew the truth. I could see it. The creature was exactly how Ian had described, except with wavy ginger hair and a sadness in its beady eyes. This abomination was Lila. This was how Prudence had brought her back, and this was the only way I would ever see Jamie again, a risk I wasn't going to take. After days of disbelief, the reality finally hit me like a ton of bricks. Jamie was dead, and he was not coming back. Why did you do this? I asked, my voice shaking with horror. Prudence scowled at me, trying to mask her shame. I didn't want this. If you think this was my aim, then you're sicker than I am. I just wanted my granddaughter back. When she died, a part of me died. My son blamed me, his wife blamed me, and although he never said it, I could see in Bernie's eyes that he did too. I'd pushed for her to stay. I wanted to spend more time with her, and I got cocky about my ability to cope with the strange occurrences in the flats. I know what you must be thinking, but I swear I didn't know about the sleepwalking until it was too late.
Oh.
Yeah. We had moved into the flat not long after my son left home to move in with his girlfriend. He's the youngest of three and was the last to fly the nest, so we downsized for the two of us. He never knew what we were facing in that flat or the dangers that he sent his little girl into. When it happened, it was a few years after the fire and the troubles with the creatures. Oh, I missed that part. So the reason that she thinks the cats are neighbors is because there was a fire in the building, and then 15 people, suddenly there were 15 cats. So 15 victims, and
Oh,
suddenly
okay.
there were cats. So that was her theory.
I see.
Um, so after the fire and the troubles with the creatures, we'd struck the deal with the things in the lift, and the neighbors of the burned flats had become a fixture just like the other quirks. I really thought she would be safe. Prudence paused to gaze longingly at the mutated little girl in the cage. The creature just twitched. In return, it bared its 4 rows of teeth and made a gentle
Oh,
hiss. Too many teeth.
4
Yeah,
rows. Jesus, way too many
too
teeth.
much. um, but how did you do this? I stopped her with more urgency this time, looking at Rat Lila in disbelief. That's mean. um, I had to get answers out of her fast. I didn't want to spend any more time than was absolutely necessary in this shed. The gardener helped me, she answered, her voice trembling. Okay, here's the gardener. So, who the fuck is the gardener? I grew more impatient with every new confusion she threw at me. The last thing I needed was something new and potentially malevolent in the mix. I didn't mention him in my note because he's been gone for over 20 years. He'll be of no concern to you, so don't worry. His damage is in the past now. Around the time Lila went missing, the council granted planning permission for the tower block next door. But before that was built, the land it sits on acted as a communal garden for ours and the neighboring tower block on the other side. It had a regular gardener named Derek, who you would often see tending the flower beds out front. Derek was one of the first people I met when I moved in. Like I said, I had to work it all out myself, and the first time the window cleaner came to the balcony, I naturally reached to let him in and offer a cup of tea. As my hand applied pressure to the handle to open the balcony door, there was a knock at my front door. I made a gesture to the cleaner to indicate that I would only be a minute and answered the front door. There was Derek. He stopped me and told me not to let that man in, that I would be making a huge mistake. I thought he sounded crazy, and I told him so. After a while of arguing, I got up to reboil the kettle and let the man in, and Derek grabbed my hands and shouted at me to look at the man outside. When I turned to look, there was no man outside, but a monster. He was tall and impossibly thin, flesh and bones, but somehow thinner than bones, with graying skin stretched over them. He had eyes, that seemed to be so deep set they went on forever, like the blackest cave you can imagine. Saliva dripped from his mouth and landed on my balcony door, some sliding down the glass panel of the door. I opened my mouth to scream, but as I did, Derek let go of my hands and the monster was gone. In its place was that smug, friendly man begging for a drink while he cleans the windows. It took me a minute to process it, but I know what I'd seen. That was the real window cleaner. I never intentionally opened or tried to open the door for him again. That day, Derek didn't stay long. He didn't tell me what the window cleaner is or why he visits every few days. He didn't explain anything about the weird things that go on. As much as Derek was a part of the strange happenings, he was like one that had been carved from light. He said that he'd always be around when I needed him, that it was his job to look after the residents just like the flower beds. Over the years, he appeared a few times. He was instrumental in striking the deal with the creatures. When the neighbors died in the fire, he created a special display for them in the garden and made sure that nothing planted was poisonous to the cats as soon as they arrived. He also stopped an imposter from killing Bernie at our front door. He seemed like such a good thing for the residents, always there to help, offer some gentle advice or creative solution, someone to be trusted. He changed when they granted planning permission for the other block, though. He knew his garden would be dug up to lay foundations and his uses redundant. He became grumpy and bitter over time, but no one paid enough attention to notice, especially not when my tragedy struck. When Lila died, I was devastated. Derek appeared to me as I sat on a bench in the garden crying. He offered to help me to use the garden to get her back. I snapped at him. I told him it was his fault, that he should have been there when it happened to stop them. He worked so hard on the agreement with the creatures, he spent a lot of time with them. Lila broke the rule, and he had to allow them to do what had been agreed, he said. He couldn't have stopped them, but he wanted to make things right. I understood why he hadn't intervened, but I couldn't accept it. I lashed out at him. I'm embarrassed to say I actually slapped the poor man along with stamping on his freshly planted flower bed. I was angry and grieving. I quickly burned myself out and collapsed into a blubbering heap on the floor. Derek attempted to comfort me, but his mind was on his garden. He said he was sorry for my loss, but I shouldn't have attacked the flower bed, that he'd always been nice to me and I should be kinder in return. I snapped and told him that it didn't matter because it was all about to be bulldozed in the next few days anyway. I should have taken more note of the way he twitched as I said that. He snapped. He said that he knew I was angry, but there was no need to take it out on him. If I was that desperate to get Lila back, he knew a way, but it was dangerous. I begged. Anything, I said. I would do anything. He told me it was simple, and that all I had to do was enter the lift and offer the creatures some food, whilst repeating the phrase revertetur mortuis during their frenzied hours. He said that there was no guarantee they wouldn't be crunching on my bones before I even got the first word out, but that if I succeeded, I would have Lila back. Of course, it was successful. There wasn't a creature in sight as I performed the ritual as instructed. I thought nothing happened at first. She didn't appear straight away, but a few days later I found her running round inside my house. She'd taken a chunk out of Damon, that's her cat, Damon's ear with her teeth. I tried to kill her at first, but just as I was about to finalize it, I saw in her eyes who she was. I tried to look for Derek, but by that point the workmen had started. Nothing was left of his garden, and nothing was left of Derek. No one's seen him since. You see, Kat, nothing in that building is totally harmless. You have to be on your guard at all times. I've kept her like this ever since. You may think I'm crazy, but I could not kill my own granddaughter. I'm not a monster. Prue sighed and ushered me back out of the shed. She locked the door behind us, closing the padlock on her most hideous secret. I was exhausted. It was a lot of information to take in, and as a result of the information I'd received, real grief for my boyfriend was finally settling in. Every hope I had was dashed. I know many of you tried to tell me in the comments that he was gone, but I wanted you to be wrong so bad. I couldn't bear to look at Prudence Hemmings for another moment. I made my excuses and left, morosely riding the bus back to the tower block I had once been so excited to live in. It was mid-afternoon by the time I got home. The choice between the stairs and the lift didn't strike much enthusiasm into me, but I opted for the stairs. That's another detail. The stairs apparently skip floors, so that was just like another glitch in the
Oh,
building. And also, when she met Terry, that neighbor with the two kids, she told her that she was going to be holding like an all flat meeting. So everybody would be gathering, which sounds dangerous, but yeah,
yeah.
that's going to be coming. So, um, I opted for the stairs, and after what I'm sure ended up being 11 flights, I made it the 6 flights up the stairs to my flat. I laid on our mattress on the floor and sobbed for Jamie. I sobbed so hard my throat went dry and hurt, and my stomach cramped with each gasping breath. I sobbed myself to sleep. My body and mind must have given up fighting the need to rest and shut down. When I woke up, it was late, about 10 p.m. I wrote as much of my update as I could for you guys, hit post, and just sat at the dining table with my head in my hands. My whole life had fallen to shit, and I knew it. I thought about so many things, questioned why they were happening to me. I searched social media for updates on Georgia, but there were none. Jamie wasn't super close with his family, but I knew it wasn't long before they'd start to worry. Everything I considered just snowballed in my mind. The loneliness in dealing with this situation was killing me, so I decided to do something I usually wouldn't. I went downstairs and knocked on the door of flat 26. Terry, the neighbor, answered. Her perfectly bobbed hair was a little unkempt and out of place. She had huge bags under her eyes, and I could smell wine on her breath. Are you okay, Kat? She looked concerned. I found it ironic that she looked so disheveled. I had forgotten it was me who came for help. I'm not. I'm sorry. I know I don't know you. I could barely speak. Don't worry. Prue called me. She told me everything, and I'm sorry about your boyfriend. It's a shame I never got to meet him. Terry stared back at me with the same expression a mother would, warm and understanding. Would you like a cup of tea? Maybe something stronger? I'd love a coffee, please, I answered meekly, making my way into the living room. Her sofa was comfy. It reminded me of being back home at my parents' before any of this started. Terry trotted out to the kitchen, stumbling slightly. I could see the kitchen counter from the sofa and the empty bottle of wine that accounted for her stumbling. As she boiled the kettle, there was a huge crash from somewhere inside the flat. I jumped, feeling startled. Terry coughed in a meager attempt to conceal the noise. Excuse me for just a moment, she muttered apprehensively as she walked out of the living area and into the hallway containing the bedrooms. I heard another crash, giggling, and some inaudible shouting. After a while, things went quiet and Terry came back into the living room. Sorry about that. Kids, she announced, brushing off the noises. I'd almost forgotten about Eddie and Ellie. It was late already, and by the resigned expression on Terry's face indicated that this was how all her nights began. I nodded. I couldn't muster up much more of a response. I think she could see that I just needed to sit there. She got up to finish making tea and then set the cup in front of me with 2 digestive biscuits. I hadn't eaten properly in days, and I really needed the sugar. It turned out me and Terry get along really well. We have similar taste in movies, music, and food despite our age gap. We spoke for about an hour about random, normal stuff. It was nice to get a break from the madness. I got used to the crashing around from the twins. I even laughed a few times. I'd forgotten what that felt like these past few days. The break didn't last long. The next noise that we heard was louder than the first. It was quickly followed by 2 small children running into the living room, diving into their mother's arms. I was taken aback for a moment. Eddie and Ellie were dressed in pajamas and were still the cute children that I had met in the hallway, but something was different. Their brown puppy dog eyes had become deep voids, like what I'd imagined when Prue described the window cleaner's true form. And at the end of their fingers were long, sharp claws protruding from where nails should be. I didn't have time to recoil in terror at their new looks. Terry clutched them and asked what was wrong. They wailed and buried the voids where their eyes should be into their mother's shoulders. Despite their terrifying exterior, these were 2 very scared little kids. Sad. It had
Yeah, but
been
also like what?
Yeah, I know. It had been a very long day, and I thought my nightmare was over, but it was only just beginning. Ellie mumbled into Terry's shoulder in that high-pitched voice kids do when they're scared. Mummy, we're sorry. We didn't mean to let them in. We were just teasing. Shh, they're coming, hissed Eddie in the same distressed, high-pitched tone.
Oh God.
What have you done? Terry asked, color drained from her face. The kids didn't get a chance to reply. Terry's face turned paler than I thought possible. I looked up, and standing in the living room doorway were about 10 people, all incredibly average looking. They were almost expressionless. They didn't look angry or pleased to see us. They were dressed in nondescript clothes. I imagine trying to describe them to one of those artists that draws pictures for the police, and I genuinely don't think even one of them had a distinguishing feature.
Oh
That's why
gosh.
it took me a while to spot her in the crowd, even though she had
Oh
been
no.
glaring at me the entire time. Natalia. And that's the end of part
Oh,
4. So, next
move
time,
out,
I
sis.
know
Move out.
it's time. And
It's time to go.
now that you know Jamie is tragically not coming back, it's
Yeah.
time. You can
God
leave.
damn.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, you're
oh.
up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
intense.
I I like am so excited for the end. Like,
I
how is this
know.
gonna end?
I know. We'll see.
Um,
I might have to like combine 4 more parts together. We'll
no,
see.
that I mean, but also we can it can take longer. It's just like it's
Yeah.
so like it's written like a book. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
interesting, but it's like fucking scary shit at
Hmm.
around every corner and like move. Like
Right. Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Not the most logical, but
Yeah.
um
No. Here we go.
okay, here we go. So I am resuming a series and I'm going to finish it because it's not that
Yes.
long. Um, Parts 2 and 3 of My Sister Talks to Herself at Night. So, quick recap.
Right.
So, basically, this girl has a sister named Maya, and Maya was like the golden child. And then she suddenly started getting sick to the point where she's like bedridden and like won't like barely like doesn't speak at all
Hmm.
during the day, and then the sister starts hearing her through the wall at night saying weird things like if I were well I would go out dancing with my friends and blah 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 and saying all
Hmm.
this weird stuff. And so the sister's like not sure what to do, so she ends up calling an old friend that Maya used to run with when they were younger. And the friend is like, yeah, like I know Maya, obviously. Like I just saw her last week at the Red Room, which is like a
Right.
club, like dancing all night and whatever. And the sister's like, huh?
No.
So
Yeah.
that is where there's also like reference to like a creepy mirror in the room
Hmm.
that like you can kind of see things moving around in it sometimes, but the
Yeah.
sister keeps the room really dark, so it's like unclear if like the mirror is actually playing a role or if that's just like a detail.
Hmm.
So
We'll
this
find out.
is part 2, the Red Room. The Red Room Dance Club had a reputation for sleaze even when our parents were young, and the decor hadn't changed much since then. Badly painted crimson walls, fake chandeliers, dark wood booths that formed a circle around a scuffed up dance floor, and mirrors everywhere. Colored lights swept through a rowdy, sweaty, packed tight crowd. Ugly as the Red Room was, its nearness to the university and dirt cheap drinks meant it could always count on a full house. It was after 1 a.m. when she finally showed up. I could have believed she was just a look-alike, a coincidence, a blurry vision brought on by the 2-for-1 cocktails I'd been throwing back all night, if she hadn't been wearing clothes from my sister's closet. I recognized the golden hoop earrings I'd bought Maya for Christmas in 2015 and the sparkling sleeveless shirt that had been the cause of so many arguments with our parents. The black jeans she wore were the same ones I'd packed away in a cardboard box when we gave up hope that my sister would ever wear anything but pajamas. The way she smiled, her energy, it was all Maya. Suddenly, I felt like an awkward preteen again, watching my popular older sister move effortlessly through a crowd, pick out a guy she liked, and effortlessly lead him away to dance with her alone. But that's where the similarity ended. The longer I watched, the more wrong and twisted the sight became. The slender, mop haired boy who Maya was dancing with began to look tired, even sick, but he kept dancing like he couldn't stop. Sweat was pouring down his pale forehead, and his legs trembled as he tried to follow her rhythm. Maya pressed herself close to him, forcing him to move with her, even though he clearly didn't have the strength to keep up. She clamped her lips onto his, and he went limp, like he was in
Oh.
some kind of horrible human puppet held up only by her mouth. I realized I had to do something. The 2, or was it 4, cocktails hit me like a truck the moment I left the stool. By the time I'd staggered across the dance floor to where the pair had been, Maya was gone. The boy stood where she'd left him, swaying like a light wind might blow him over. I grabbed his shoulders and shook. Who are you? He puked a sickening quantity of ruby red blood all
Oh
over
no.
me. His eyes widened. What the fuck did you do to me? He groaned, and his knees gave out. He was on all fours now, retching up something dark and hideous.
Mm.
More of it leaked out of his eyes. People nearby had stopped dancing. The back of my neck prickled as more and more stares turned toward me. Even the bored-looking bouncers on the wall had started moving. I shoved my way through the crowd and out to my car, my hands shaking. I drove home as fast as I dared, hoping I'd beat my sister home, hoping she could give me an explanation for the insane scene I'd just witnessed. Maya! I flung open the door to my sister's bedroom, expecting to catch her taking off her club clothes and slipping back into bed after whatever she'd done to that boy. Instead, I found her just as I'd left her earlier that night, unmoving in her bed. With a massive effort, Maya turned her head and looked at me. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. There was no way that this girl had just spent the night dancing at the Red Room. What do you think you're doing, yelling like that in here? My father shouldered past me and ran to Maya's bedside. He knelt beside her and turned to me. Don't you know your sister needs her rest? Who knows what all that excitement might have done to my little girl? He stroked Maya's hand, his big brown eyes full of concern. Are you drunk? My mother asked. She'd appeared silently behind me, just like she always had when I was about to get in trouble. Don't tell me you drove home like that. I'm going to
Mm.
bed, I muttered, backing into my room and locking the door behind me. This conversation isn't over, my mother whispered through the keyhole. I was acting childish and I knew it, but the truth was I felt guilty. I really did reek of the Red Room's cheap liquor, and Maya's eyes had filled with fear and surprise when I'd shouted at her. Maybe I really had made things worse. And for what? A weird hunch I'd had? I was lying awake, angry at myself, wishing I could undo the whole thing, when I heard my sister's voice through the wall for the 3rd time. It felt amazing to dance again. I need a new outfit, though, something modern and stylish. I'd give anything just to go to the mall and try something on. I gulped, my throat dry from fear at the wispy, impossible sound of my sister's voice. All noise from Maya's room stopped. I could feel her suspicion from the other side of the wall. I'll be beautiful, she finally went on. I can't wait. Rough night? My father asked the next morning when he saw me down my 4th cup of coffee. I grunted. I was still trying to piece together what I thought I knew about Maya. 1, my sister, or someone who looked just like her, was running around while she was supposedly in bed. 2, each time my sister went out, she talked up her plans to herself or to some mystery person.
Mm.
3, Maya's excursions always happened at night, and her next target would be the local mall after hours if I could catch her in the act. Look, I lost my temper yesterday, and I didn't mean to take it out on you. I was so lost in thought that I didn't realize my father was apologizing to me. It's just been so long since we've had any good news about Maya, and I can't stand the thought of her getting worse, or even he didn't have to say the word dying. It was always in the back of our minds. It's okay, I forced a smile. The tension dropped from my father's shoulders. Good. Just get out of here before your mom wakes up, yeah? It's going to take her a while to forgive what you did. And how long would it take for her to give what I wow. How long would it take her to forgive what I'm doing now?
We got there in the end.
We got there. I wondered to myself that night in the mall parking lot. I just called home to confirm that Maya was still in bed, apparently asleep. My mind was running so fast that I couldn't even remember the excuse I'd made up for my own absence, although my parents seemed to accept it without question. Maybe they needed some space too, I thought glumly as I looked at the dark shape of the massive building ahead. I'd parked at a nearby apartment complex and snuck through a gap in the fence to arrive here. On private property after hours. Ordinarily, the mall would be locked up tight, but since half of it was under renovation, I figured I might just be able to sneak in through the construction area. I was right. Looking back, I wish that I hadn't been. So
Mm.
that's part 2,
Oh,
which brings us to part 3, the
okay.
mirror.
Oh God. Let's find out.
Pardon me. God,
Yeah. You gonna
lube
be
the
able to
pipes.
make it through?
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. I'm
Okay.
gonna make it.
All
Okay.
right.
The unlit, half demolished rooms and walls of semi transparent plastic made the construction site feel like some kind of insane plague hospital. That's a really creepy image.
Very.
My heart was in my chest as I felt my way through the dark. What if I got caught? I doubted my family could take another tragedy. The mall was no less creepy than the construction site had been. The main lights had been powered down, and the only illumination came from emergency signs and a few gated storefronts that must have kept their lights on all night. The eyeless stares of backlit mannequins seemed to follow me while I hurried through the mall. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was following me. Every time I stopped moving, the echoes of my footsteps seemed to continue on just a little bit longer than they should have. I crouched in a shadowy hallway in front of Maya's favorite store and waited. There was no sound but the dripping of the powered down fountains and the rumble of machines kicking on beneath the mall. I kept expecting to turn and find some horrible thing squatting in the darkness beside me. I was considering giving up and going home when lights suddenly came on in the store in front of me. In happier times, the posh teen clothing retailer had been Maya's favorite place to shop. Now, with its staticky pop songs playing to an audience of mannequins and vacant cash registers, it seemed far more sinister than I remembered. The gate was unlocked when I approached, but I winced at the noise it made when I lifted it. At the time, I didn't consider how strange it was that someone had somehow entered the store without passing through it. By the time I did, it was too late. A dark figure was approaching from the dressing room corridor, humming along to the music. Maya. I dived into a circular clothing rack, grabbing the hangers to stop their rattling. It was like being a kid again, playing hide and seek with my older sister. Only this time, the game felt deadly serious. Maya held up jeans and sweaters, checking each look before discarding anything she didn't want into a growing mountain of clothes beside her. She tried a variety of perfumes and painted her nails hot pink with a smile, a maniac, hungry smile that didn't look right on my sister's face. I slipped my phone out of my pocket. I'd come this far for proof, and no matter how frightened I wasn't going to leave without it. The next time Maya struck a pose in front of the floor to ceiling mirror, I was ready. From my hiding spot in the clothing rack, I looked down to take the photo, but Maya didn't appear on the screen. I glanced up at the girl in front of me and back down at my phone. Footsteps came running towards us. I gasped and peered out the other side of the rack. Freeze! Security! A pale, scared looking guy in a cheap looking uniform skidded to a halt in front of the store. Hey, put your hands up and turn around, now! The smile never left Maya's face as she lifted her arms and turned toward the mall cop. The way she twisted her body hardly seemed human, but the guard was too nervous to notice. He was busy trying to get his radio to work. No matter what channel he used to ask for backup, the radio only played the same staticky pop music as the store's speakers. You're trespassing on private property. I'm gonna have to take you in. Then Maya was on him. The hot pink polish of her nails sparkled as she squeezed the guard's head between her hands.
Whoa.
His eyes went wide, and he didn't have the time or the strength to resist as Maya pushed him backward toward the mirror. With one hand, she touched the silvery surface, and with the other, she pushed him through it. The reflection of the store wavered, and for a second I was looking into a maze of gloomy corridors that swallowed the guard like quicksand. The moment his fingers disappeared into the mirror, the gray hallways disappeared, and I was once again looking at my sister's reflection. Maya dusted off her hands and went back to trying on clothes. Each time she came close to the rack where I hid, I shut my eyes tight, terrified that she'd find me and push me through the mirror too. But the tightly packed dresses hid me well. By the time Maya finished, the store looked like a hurricane had hit it. With 3 vials of nail polish, 2 bottles of perfume, and an armload of clothing, my sister approached the mirror and stepped inside. I
Whoa.
caught just a flash of the gloomy corridors and the panicking guard before the flexion wavered and returned to normal. I was alone with the eerie music, the ransacked store, and an angry voice on the mall cop's radio that was asking him to report in. I got out of there as fast as I could run. I spent the misty 2 a.m. drive home trying to explain to myself what I'd seen, but when I parked on the street in front of my parents' apartment, my thoughts were just as troubled and confused as they'd been when I'd left the mall. I checked nervously for signs of movement from Maya's window before I snuck inside and dragged myself to bed. I woke to knocking on my door. Sunlight streamed through the window. "Breakfast, sleepyhead," my father was saying. "By the way, that was a really sweet thing you did for Maya last night."
Oh,
What do you mean?" I felt my blood run cold. "You did a great job painting your sister's nails. You even remembered how much she loves hot pink."
mm. He has no idea.
No. The next morning, the missing mall security guard was all over the news. I bit my lip, wondering if anyone had seen me sneaking into the shopping center after hours. What if the cops dusted for fingerprints? Would they find
Mm.
mine or Maya's? There was only one way to find out for sure what was happening to my sister, but I was terrified of doing it. I'd actually preferred going to a sketchy dance club and breaking into a mall rather than do the one simple thing that I'd been dreading all along: spending the night in my sister's room.
Mm.
Once I'd
Yikes.
committed to it, though, yeah, fucking yikes. Once I'd committed to it, though, I felt an odd sense of calm. One way or another, I was about to learn the truth about what was happening to Maya. When my father's snores finally echoed down the hallway, I tiptoed to my sister's room. "Maya," I whispered. No movement, no response. I could see a dark shape in my sister's bed. She must be asleep, I thought, or pretending to be. As I crossed the room to the table lamp that was Maya's only source of light, another possibility occurred to me. What if that wasn't really my sister under the blankets? I reached
Oh,
for the
God.
light, expecting a horrible hand to shoot out of the darkness and grab my hand, but none came. When I clicked on the tiny lamp, I saw only my sister's sleeping face. Without opening her eyes, Maya sighed and turned away from the light. What
Mm.
now? I had no idea. There was nothing to do but listen to the barely there hypnotic sound of my sister's breathing and try to stay awake. Every time I checked my phone, I was amazed by how little time had passed. I zoned out looking at my sister's possessions, preserved in the silent room like butterflies pinned behind glass. Finally, my eyes settled on the fancy oval mirror on the wall in front of Maya's bed. There had been a mirror in the dance club and in the store in the mall. What if I froze? Was it possible that someone or something was watching me from within that gloomy
Mm.
reflection? I sighed, patted my sister's hand, and pretended to stretch. I turned out the lamp, then opened and closed my sister's door, but I didn't leave the room. Instead, I pressed myself against the wall where the mirror hung, hiding myself from the view of anything inside.
Oh, God.
The darkness seemed thick enough to cut with a knife as I waited for anything to happen.
Mm.
For what felt like hours, the surface of the mirror began to swirl and emit a dull, silverish glow. My sister stirred and, with a tremendous effort, pushed herself into a sitting position. In the weird light of the mirror, Maya looked like a ghost. Her eyes burned with fear and excitement, but of course I couldn't see what she was looking at. Then, to my horror, a hand reached out of the mirror and a dark shape pulled itself through.
Mm.
Maya reached weakly over and turned on her table lamp, and I was treated to a full view of the thing that had just climbed out of my sister's bedroom wall. It was like a walking reflection of Maya, and when it sat down on the bed beside her and took her hand, it made no impression on the sheets. Until that moment, the darkness had hidden me from my sister's view. Now, however, Maya was looking at me with a mixture of confusion and terror on her face. I pressed a finger to my lips, silently begging her not to alert the thing to my presence. As the thing touched her hand, my sister seemed to draw some strength from it, and I saw a sight I'd never dreamed I'd see again. Maya opened her mouth and began to speak. "I love the outfit," my sister rasped. "I had a great time." Maya paused. I had to hold down a scream as the thing from the mirror leaned hungrily toward her like it was drinking in her words. I just, I don't think I want to go out again." The thing twisted its head and made an angry sound like glass shattering. I noticed its other hand creeping up Maya's chest, toward her neck. "What happened to that man, the guard from the mall? What did you do to him? This isn't fun anymore." I realized that where the thing was touching Maya, its skin was merging with her own,
Oh.
blending until I could no longer tell where my sister's body ended and the thing from the mirror began. It was slipping her on like a suit made of skin.
Ew.
"Stop," Maya choked. "I don't want to do this anymore. Please stop." I fumbled for something to defend myself with. My fingers wrapped around Maya's old lacrosse stick. Against a monster, it wouldn't do much, but against a mirror. I
Mm.
swung it into a fancy antique on my sister's wall. As the glass cracked, the thing's head whipped around backwards towards me. Its body followed, crackling horribly as it turned. That, everyone, is his nightmare. Crackling.
Crackling. Yeah, no thanks.
Um, the reflection in the mirror no longer resembled Maya's room at all. On the other side of the fractured surface, I could see only those ghastly gray hallways, those decrepit silver rooms, and the half-eaten remains of a mall security guard.
Oh no. Oh,
I
poor
felt
guy.
cold, glass-like fingers on the back of my neck pushing
Mm.
me toward the horrible vision in the mirror. I smashed at the fractures with the lacrosse stick once, twice, again and again, and it wasn't enough. With a final scream, I grabbed the mirror's ornamental frame, hurling it onto the floor, and the antique-looking glass finally shattered. The feeling of those cold fingers on my skin disappeared. Maya stood behind me, blinking like she'd just woken up from a bad dream. As I looked down at the shattered remains of the mirror, I realized that my sister's sickness had begun right around the time she'd hung this up in her room. That
Mm.
thing must have slipped out of her mirror each night, draining her energy until she could barely breathe.
Mm.
Then it approached her as a savior, offering Maya her energy back in return for letting it inside. My sister hadn't been talking to herself, she'd been talking to it. The door flew open. "What is going on in here?" my father bellowed. "I told you." He stopped mid sentence when he saw my sister on her feet behind me, one hand resting on my shoulder.
Mm.
It had taken over 6 years for my mother's prediction to come true, but in the end, she was right. We finally had our Maya back.
Oh, yay. That's a
Happy
good ending.
ending. Happy little
Wow.
ending. Not for the security guard. Ooh,
No, poor guy. Did
R.I.P. security guard.
part one tell us where that mirror came from? I can't remember.
She thrifted it. Like, she
Okay.
bought it at a thrift store and was really weird about anything changing in her room. So, like,
Yeah,
when it creeped the family out, they tried to move it, and she
right.
was like, No, you
No,
can't." But
yeah,
then, um, she was like that with other stuff too. So they didn't think like, "Oh, it's a mirror." It
yeah,
was like, she just wants to keep everything the same.
yeah.
But anyway.
Ooh, that's, yeah, thrifting furniture. Ooh, I mean, it's like so implausible, but it's scary to ponder.
Well, yeah, yes, I guess implausible, but like at the same time, I don't know. Like, we've had episodes about haunted
Mhm,
objects of all kinds, and
mhm,
we've had an episode about a mirror, like
yeah.
mirrors, haven't we?
Mhm. I
Yeah,
think so,
like
a long time ago.
they're portals, like mirrors, but all furniture too. Like, people's energy gets attached to it, and
Mhm.
mirrors are like on a whole nother level. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I think you just have to, like, if you're gonna thrift stuff, which I love that idea of
Mhm.
like not buying all brand new stuff, but like, reusing stuff because
Yeah.
we've got enough landfill on the planet, but
Mhm.
like really feel it, Like, don't
Yeah.
just look at it, like hold it,
Mhm.
feel the
Yeah.
vibes.
Take your time.
Take your sweet, sweet time.
Yeah.
Maybe bring some crystals. Listen,
Oh, yeah.
black cord rock crystals are super in, guys.
That is exactly
So,
what's needed.
yeah, get some of those and
Mhm.
call it a day.
Yeah.
That's my
Perfect.
advice. Um, well, next
Yeah.
week we'll be back to our usual programming.
Yes.
Um, Amy and I are going to map out the rest of the season
Woohoo.
during our break, which
Yeah.
technically is already in the past for you
Right.
guys because time is a
Uh-huh.
construct.
We're time traveling
Um,
as we
we're
speak.
time traveling. Spooky. Um, but yeah, email us your spooky stories at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. We always have time to fit those in.
Mhm.
So please send them.
Yes.
And you can follow us on socials at Girls Gone Spooky. And we'll see y'all next week.
Yes. Stay
Bye.
spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.